In the whole history of humans speaking, I don't think there's anyone that has ever said anything better than James Baldwin. So allow me to start with some of his words. In The Fire Next Time, Baldwin elaborates this really compelling theory, which is the idea that Americans, to him, most fundamentally, are people who refuse to face reality. He wrote that Americans cannot face death and cannot face the fact that life is tragic or the reality that we all die. His contention was that we as Americans are full of existential fear, and to deal with this existential fearfulness, our culture insists on a couple of key delusions which I think you will all recognize, namely that America is great, that America is white, and that greatness never dies. But everything dies, obviously, he wrote. Life is tragic. The earth turns, and the sun inexorably rises and sets, and one day, for every one of us, the sun will go down for the last time. And perhaps the whole root of the human trouble is that we sacrifice all the beauty of our lives, imprison ourselves in taboos, crosses, steeples, mosques, races, armies, flags, in order to deny the fact of death, which is the only fact we have. Does this sound familiar? What James Baldwin proposed instead was that one ought to rejoice in the fact of death, ought to decide, indeed, to earn one's death by confronting with passion the conundrum of life. One is responsible for life, he wrote. It is that small beacon in the terrifying darkness from which we come and to which we return. So Baldwin wasn't a Buddhist, although he, respected the tradition greatly. And actually, he was suspicious of people who popularized Buddhist teachings in America in his day because he found their commitments to activism and political justice quite thin. But I have to say, he speaks like he wrote Dharma professionally. And I know that Three Jewels did not exist in 1963, but he talks like someone who went to every single one of Hector's Thursday night ACI classes. He's so on the money of these teachings that death is certain, that suffering is everywhere, that we manufacture suffering all the time with everything we do because we are confused, because we fail to see reality properly. And from this, we get the law of entropy, that everything falls to pieces despite there being so much beauty. And even in speaking of earning one's death, Baldwin hits on this notion of karma and reincarnation. He's in perfect harmony with the Buddhist view that life has this fundamental conundrumness. And his resolutions for how we deal with it are even Buddhist. That we have to throw ourselves valiantly at the challenges and the inconsistencies, and that we have to, take responsibility for the impressions that we make whilst alive, and that we have to meet pain and confusion with kindness and intention. In the last 10 weeks, however, I have realized that I think that there's something Baldwin missed. And it's this. For sure, life is, a beacon in terrifying darkness that envelops us on either side. But there's another kind of darkness. One that isn't scary. One that is a lot like the darkness of a womb. This other darkness is full of life and liquid and full of the feeling of infinite potential. It's another dark place that you don't have to die to get to, where you can sit and steep in yearning and excitement for the world that waits for you outside. This other dark place is the one that I go to every time I sit down and I close my eyes and meditate. In about the 5th week of our teacher training, we learned how to lead mind in a meditation on death, which actually turned out to be a meditation on impermanence. We learned that to meditate on death directly can be quite damaging. So the whole idea is to focus on a sense of the preciousness of life instead, and to cue people into a thought pattern of yearning for their lives whilst appreciating from a calm place that death is unstoppable. And that because it's unstoppable, it shouldn't be feared, but just well prepared for. The correct object of the death meditation is, as my brilliant classmate Anna said, to ignite your life, to get you invigorated for the time you have left. When I first started meditating, I had no idea what I was doing, like most of us, and I'd close my eyes and I'd be on a train car or whatever, and I'd find that I could get very calm if I concentrated on generating a mental image of the exact train car that I was in, but with a totally empty space where I was sitting. It was really weird, and it was basically like taking a little time out to act like a ghost, but it made me feel so at peace, like I could see life, but without any of the stress of actually being there. And when I practiced this trick, I found that my sense of life's curiousness, its oddity, its delightful, unlikely nature, my fondness for this weird place that I was imagining myself absent from, grew. And so did my yearning to be back there, and my sense that because I had this calm kind of looking chamber inside myself, once I climbed back down into the world, anything was possible. And after 5 or 10 minutes, I'd open my eyes and bam, I would give myself the joy, the surprise of actually being back where I was yearning for. I now realize that I was meditating on death and I didn't know it. And the results that it was giving me in my life were nothing short of magic. Taking myself out of the room, as I like to say, going to this place of darkness that is like the darkness that we come from and must necessarily return to, but without dying, meant that I was getting all of the deep realizations, the awareness of the preciousness of life and the sense of love and of urgency that I might if death really was threatening at my doorstep. It was a safe pathway, however, to realizations about life that we otherwise would probably only be able to access by experiencing and somehow surviving serious trauma. So, my message is that meditation will kill your ennui. It will give you the correct glasses with which to look at this blissful, complex, impossible, gorgeous experience, and it will help you confront with passion the conundrum of life. It will liberate you to waste no time and to eat every minute up, to make the absolute most of every moment in this unbelievably statistically unlikely period of time for which you are in a human body on planet Earth. I'll end by reminding you that in Buddhism, the goal of the karmic cycle is to earn a rebirth in the human realm. The point of striving always to plant positive karmas is to re-emerge after one's life has ended, not into some magical afterworld where everyone gets 1,000 virgins, but to arrive back here. This is it. This is the big room that everyone wants to be in. May we all find the dark space inside that enables us to worship it. Thank you.